What's good? This is Kareem from DJBooth.net, and I'm here in the lab to give you guys a full, in-depth video review of the new Native Instruments Traktor Kontrol S8 professional DJ controller and standalone mixer. So what we have here is the latest and greatest flagship DJ controller and standalone mixer from Native Instruments that, as you guys can see, is pretty different from the original S4 and the S2 that the Traktor team has put out in the past. And what makes it really different is, as you can see, the absence of jog wheels and, of course, your pitch sliders. And you can see the placement of remix Dex control and the X1 style touch slider for all of your beat matching and slight nudging needs. And you can also see that there are high resolution screens that replaced much of the Dex section as well. And on these screens, you guys will get lots of Traktor information such as your track, your BPM, a lot of your remix deck integration, and a lot of other information that you guys are going to want to see right here on the screen instead of looking at your laptop or your desktop screen in this case here. So we're going to break this down one by one, but first up we're going to go into the build quality and the first impressions and the setup procedure. The build quality of the Traktor Kontrol S8 is better than the other controllers that they do have in the range. Instead of that shiny plastic-like material on the top face, it's been replaced by this brushed metal material, which is much more durable. It actually has a lot more weight to it. It's much bigger than a Traktor Kontrol S4, and it just feels a little bit more sturdy, and it just feels like it has really good build quality. It feels solid, and it feels like it's definitely built to last. But it is big again, so if you are going to use this with external decks, just note that this is a wide footprint, so going back and forth to do your juggling or your turntablist type maneuvers is going to be a little bit difficult with the Traktor Kontrol S8, but we'll definitely get into that a little bit later. So the setup was a little bit of a mixed bag here. We had to upgrade to the new Traktor, I believe it's 1.8, and in that upgrade we did experience a few hiccups here and there. We weren't allowed to use our multi-chore support. We're getting all type of audio pops and hisses and dropouts, so we're definitely looking for the new Traktor update really soon so that we can correct these problems and we can have a smoother overall setup procedure with the S8. So I couldn't use my multi-chore support. And you also have to go in and make sure you have the Traktor Kontrol S8 selected as your main sound card, and you also have to make sure you have it selected as your main controller. So not quite easy as plug and play. You're definitely going to have to plug it in, then you're going to have to use the voucher code that you get in the box in order to go to the Native Instruments website, or you can go through the service center and download the latest edition of Traktor, and then you will be able to start playing right out the box. You do get the Traktor Scratch Pro 2 license. Therefore, you can use external turntables or CDJs with external vinyl or timecode CDs, and that way you can play back your digital files directly from those external decks. So setup, again, wasn't as easy as some of your Serato plug-and-play controllers, but it was easy enough in order to figure it out. Again, I couldn't use the multi-chore 64-bit setting for your quicker processor handling, but again, not a big deal. Everything worked fine once we took that off. Okay, so now that we took a look at the first impressions and the quick setup, let's take a look at the inputs and outputs and see what we got.
Okay, so on the rear panels, we have the inputs and outputs. And again, this is a completely standalone mixer, so you don't have to use it with software. You don't need to plug it into a computer in order for it to work, in order for you to plug in other sources to get sounds out of it. It will work without the computer, without Traktor, as a standalone mixer. But of course, when you do use this with Traktor and in standalone mixer mode, you can still use the Traktor effects on your external sources, such as your microphones, your turntables, etc. But right off the bat, all the way to the left, we have the main outputs, which are controlled by the main output knob. You have RCA and XLR, really professional stuff here. And then you have a 1/4-inch booth output option as well, with a separate booth volume control knob for when you're monitoring. Next up, you have your 4 sets of RCA inputs, which are switchable between phono and line level, meaning you can have 4 different vinyl turntable decks. You have a ground post in the middle, screws out so you can plug in your turntables to this so you have adequate ground. And again, you can switch these between line or phono. And you have a button on the top that allows you to change these decks to live decks or to tractor style decks. Next up, you have your microphone 1 and microphone 2. Your microphone 1 is a 1/4 inch style jack, while the microphone 2 is a combo style XLR or 1/4 inch. Then you have your MIDI in and out, and you have a USB connection cable, and then you also have the power adapter as well. You do need power in order to use this device. Next up, all the way to the right, is your push button on off. All the way in the right front, you have your mini and your large 1/4 inch style headphone outputs. All right, so here it is, the Traktor Kontrol S8, and since we just touched on the inputs and outputs on the rear and front panels of the S8, let's just go right to the heart of the Kontrol S8, which is the standalone mixer or the mixer control surface, which is always found on the middle of a DJ controller. All the way at the bottom, we have the crossfaders and the line faders. The line faders have more resistance to them, so they make for a nice, good, adequate fade. And the crossfader is really loose, and it has a really low cut-in distance. It really reminds me of the crossfader that's found on the S4 MK2, which had a nice, quick cut-in distance, and it feels a little bit plasticky. It's not as smooth and as nice feeling as an innovator, but you are allowed to remove these screws that you see here on the panel in order to access all 5 of your faders, and you can replace them for either Traktor Kontrol S8 replacements or for mini innovators if you need to do so. So on the front, you have your crossfader curve control knob, which allows you to go from a smooth fade to a short cut. And you also have the little recessed metal knobs or posts that allow you to assign the crossfader to the A side, the B side, or in the middle, they'll be through, meaning the crossfader has no bearing on your channel. Again, this is a standalone mixer as well, so if you have your external sources, all of these controls will work for your crossfader controls. You also have your Q buttons here right above the line faders, which allow you to hear in your headphones what you don't hear on the outside. You have your Q mix knob, which allows you to fade between what you have in the Q section and what you have playing in the master. And then you have your Q volume control knob to control the volume of your headphone jacks that you have in the front of the unit. Next up, you have your filter knobs. These are the same filters that are found on the Traktor Kontrol Z2. Some people like them, some people don't, but they're here, they're brought over again. But this time they have a little filter indicator light so you can turn them on and off at will. So you can have a really high pass fade or filter and automatically press the button to turn it off and on really, really quickly on the fly. So that's a really cool feature and allows you to do some things you can't do when you have to twist it all the way back to bring it back to the 0. Next up, you have your low, mid, and high full band cut EQs, and then you have these nice LED indicators so you can see the levels of the mix that you're in right now. So as you can see, we have a remix deck playing here in deck C, and you can see exactly where your levels are right at a glance. Next up, you have your tempo. This is a tempo knob that allows you to adjust the master tempo that your whole S8 is playing on, and you can adjust your tempo in BPM increments of 100th, as you can see on the screen, or if you press shift and the knob, you get to adjust it in complete 1 BPM increments. This is a master clock BPM, in other words. Next up, you have your booth volume knob, and then you have your master knob, which control the different outputs that are on the rear of the S8. Next up, you have your FX controls, which allow you to apply either FX Bank 1 or FX Bank 2 onto your different channels individually. And again, in standalone mixer mode, when you have your Traktor connected as well, your computer connected, you are allowed to use those external devices with your Traktor effects as well. It's a really cool plus, really cool feature to have. You have your snap and quantize buttons here, so you can make sure everything always hits on the 1 exactly where you need it, and everything's nice and synced and really tight. Then you have your microphone 1 and 2 knobs. When you press these buttons, you will turn your
deck C for mic 1 into your live input for your microphone, and when you need mic 2, then your deck D also becomes a microphone as well. Next up, you have your gain knobs all the way at the top of each 4 of your different lines. And then you have your main volume control knob all the way at the top. You also get a nice master left and right LED indicator so that you can see right at a glance what your master levels are doing as well. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the deck sections of the Traktor Kontrol S8, which are found on the left and the right hand sides of the controller. And you'll notice right away that they have these beautiful high resolution screens on each side, so it shows you a lot of different information within the Traktor software. You also notice that they don't have any jog wheels or pitch sliders, which were removed in favor of your touch strip and also your remix deck's control capability. And also probably to make room for those screens as well. But with doing so, you eliminate the chance or the opportunity for people to DJ with this controller without perfectly beat gridded or synced style music. So people who DJ reggae music, calypso, hip hop, R&B, funk, or anything that doesn't have a set standard 4x4 style beat tempo, then it's going to be hard to DJ with the Traktor Kontrol S8 by itself. Therefore, you're going to have to plug in external record, vinyl, or CDJ style decks in order to be able to beat match and in order to use your pitch sliders the way you may want to. This unit is perfect for those DJs who love to use the remix decks, or perfect for any DJ who has beat gridded, synced EDM style 4x4 bar style music. This will be a dream for them, it's going to work for them, and it's going to be an excellent tool for them. For all others, you're going to need those external decks that you're going to have to plug into in order to use your beat matching features. All the way at the bottom, you have your play, your cue, your sync, shift buttons, which allows you to have double duty for some of your other buttons that are here on the controller. And you also have a deck button that allows you to switch between deck A and C on the left side and deck B and D on the right side. Next up, you have this touch slider, which is from the X1 MK2. And when the song is paused, you can just easily go scroll through the song, so you can set up your hot cues, your loops, and the points in the song where you want a flag or a reminder. And when you press shift and you use this slider, then you'll be able to just scroll through the entire song front to back, and the LED indicator above it shows you exactly where you are within the track at that current time. So next up, you have your flux mode button, and your flux mode is the same as your slip mode on your Pioneer CDJs or slip mode in Serato. And here you'll be able to do things like hot cues, loops, and manipulate the track in different ways while the playhead of the track continues to play underneath as if you have never done any manipulation at all. We can give you a quick example of that. So as you can see, we were able to do loops and hot cues, but the playhead of the song continued to remain where it would have been if we never had any manipulation at all. Next up, you have your performance pad section. These are very, very nice performance pads, basically the same as what's found on the machine lineup of track or Native Instruments gear. And they have a nice center click to them. They feel really, really good to the touch. You'll definitely be able to drum and perform with these just as good as they are on the machine, and that's really, really saying something. Same as what's on the F1, so really good for drumming, really good for performing. You have your hot cues, and of course you're allowed to set your hot cues very easily. You just press the button. You have 8 hot cues at your disposal, and when you're ready to get rid of the hot cue, you press shift in the button in order to delete it. Really quick demo. Next up, you have your set loops. These are set loop sizes, so that way the automatic loop will enact on 1/8, quarter, half, so on and so forth. And you can also do that with flux mode, so you can have your loop roll. So next up you have your freeze mode, which is similar to the slicer mode, which will allow you to slice a section of the song within your range here. It'll slice it into 8 different parts, equal parts, and you'll be allowed to play those songs back. So you can do some really cool remixing opportunities by freezing the song right where it is and then drumming or playing in your own special tune along with what's playing there already. Next up, you have your remix deck, and your remix decks are really capable here on this unit. It's really nicely implemented. It's the best implementation of remix decks anywhere, even better than the F1 in my opinion. And the reason being is because you have these screens that show you all this information that you could need right here at the top. And down here you have these performance pads that allow you to launch your different loops and your different cues and everything you have set. Right now I have a remix deck already set up inside of there. Really easy to launch. You have your volume control knobs here, and right above each volume control knob, which allows you to launch your separate clips, you have on and off buttons and different knobs that will correspond to different things that you see on the screen. We're going to break the screen down, let you see that a little bit closer in a second. But things that you can control with these knobs include filter, pitch, and your FX send. And the FX send will allow you to take these effects that you have already set in Traktor and individually apply them to your individual columns within the remix deck. So really cool, really easy to use, really fun. Native Instruments recently gave away about 12 different remix sets for free. So they're all here and they're all easy to play with, all fun. Really cool stuff, really fun. The most fun I've had with remix decks in a long while, and especially due to the screens. It has the best control. As you can see on the screen, as we cycle, we're allowed to cycle up and down through the different things that we have already set in the remix set. And instead of looking at your laptop, you can look right here on the actual device, and it's a much better experience using the remix decks on the Control S8 than it even is on the computer using a Traktor Kontrol F1. Next up, we have your loop here, your loop controls. And these are automatic loops. And every time we press this or hold on to this loop control, it automatically lights up and lets us know on the screen what size loop we have already set. Next up, we have the capture and edit buttons over here on the left. The capture button will allow you to capture your loop and even toss it into a remix deck. Really cool stuff. And then you have your edit button that allows you to edit your beat grid so you can get them right perfectly on, right where they need to be, so that way your music is lined up. Okay, last but not least, we have these gorgeous screens and the effects section, which is all the way at the top, but since they kind of went together, thought I'd show you both right here while we're working on it. We have the FX select button all the way at the top left, and there's of course one on the top right as well. Everything we're going to show you here is duplicated on the other side, and you'll have to scroll through just as you would browse for your tracks. You can go through and browse your different effects and select the effect to the empty bank or to the bank that you want up here at the top. You have your effects control knobs just as we always have, but this time when you press the knob, you can see the different parameters that you have highlighted for your different effects. So as soon as you just grab onto the knob, they're touch sensitive, so that way the menu pops up on the screen and you can adjust your effect wet and dry on the fly really easily, and then it goes away so you can see the other information in Traktor that you really want to see at that time. You can adjust the screen. The screens by themselves are high resolution, and they're pulled directly from the Machine Studio, so really good stuff here. You're allowed to adjust the brightness, the green, the blue, the red, so you get it just right for you. Up here in the top right, you have a button that allows you to cycle and see the different decks that you have already available. Right now I can see my remix deck at a glance, even though I'm in deck A. I can see some of my deck C there. Or if I don't want to see it at all, I can just see my whole waveform as I do here. These two buttons will allow you to zoom in and out of your waveform so that you can see it exactly how you want, zoomed in or zoomed out. And then on the other side, these two buttons will work to change your BPM. Again, you can change your BPM by using the browse button. And if you want to change it by whole increments, you press shift and turn the browse button, and you'll be able to change the BPM by 1 instead of by the 100th that you see there. And you're also allowed to adjust the key of the song that's playing. Again, you can hold back to reset, and you can just press the browse button when you get the key wherever you want it to be. Next up, we have the bottom of the screen, which shows you the FX send of your remix decks. So when we're in remix deck mode, you can see it at a glance here, but once you actually touch the knob, you can see the FX send parameter changes, and you can see the percentage right there on the screen, and you can see whether it's on or off. You can also see that by the lit light. But when you press these other arrow keys, you get to change different parameters for your remix decks. And now these control filters. So these are your filter knobs as well, on and off. You can change them on the fly for your different sections in your remix decks. And they also can change the pitch, and you can turn that on and off on the fly as well. So really cool remix deck capabilities built right into the screen. Now for browsing your tracks, when you're ready to select a new track, right now we're in remix decks mode. We'll get back into the regular deck. And you can see we have all of our tracks, samples, remix decks, releases, however you want to organize your music, playlists, everything will be here. And you can scroll through all of your music on the fly by just going through all of your different folders or all of your different playlists as you have them. You have your artwork listed on the side once you have your songs set up or already imported. And whenever you're ready to add the song to a certain deck, you press the browse knob, and that track will be loaded into the deck. You can see only a few different parameters on the screens by themselves, like track name, artist, BPM, key, and that's about it. And you can't really edit them, so you can't really have all of your advanced things that you guys like to show on your laptop screen on this screen. So that's one of my minor gripes with the unit, is that you won't be able to see all of the information that you want. You won't be able to completely focus your attention off of your laptop screen, especially if you have a large library like me, and you may have to go in and type in your different songs names or your different artist names in order to find exactly what you're looking for. There's no way to type on this, of course. So you're just stuck with scrolling through all of your songs, all of your tracks, and all of your different playlists or whatever you have. If you do condense all of your music down for when you're playing out or playing abroad, then you can have a nice couple different playlist folders that everything that you need is already set up in there. That would make using this device a whole lot easier without using your laptop. But as it stands, if you're a mobile DJ, a person with a large library, and you're not as organized as some other DJs out there, then you may have to go back to using your laptop in order to do some important functions, and of course to search for your different tracks. Well, once the track is loaded, you will see on the screen the track playing. You'll see the waveform. Again, you can zoom out or in. You also see the artwork in the upper left-hand corner. You'll see another row of the track, so that way you can see where you are in relation to the whole entire track. And you also get to have your track playing, remaining time, and your play time. And you also get to see the current BPM readout, current deck you're in. So you have a lot of pertinent information on the screen, and it works really well in order to have you not look as much at your laptop as you may have once before. Okay, so this is just a very quick demo so you guys can see how easy it is to use a Traktor Scratch Control vinyl on a turntable, plug it into the Traktor Kontrol S8, then you select the deck that you plugged it into,
to act as a scratch control deck, and then you're ready to go. All you got to do is put on your control vinyl, and you'll be ready to start playing. Really cool feature because you have these screens here. Again, this is closer to your turntable than the laptop would be, so it's still a cool idea to have a screen really close to a turntable, so that way you can see your waveforms, your cues, your loops, and all that cool information without actually needing a record sticker or without having to look up at your laptop, of course. Again, using two of these side by side with the Traktor Kontrol 8, it's going to be a pretty wide distance to cover. So doing your juggle style tricks and things of that nature are going to be very difficult to pull off because the S8 is a lot wider than your 10, 12 inch or even 19 inch mixer. So it's a really big footprint. It can be done, but again, it's up to you if that's the route you want to go. Okay, so in conclusion, the Traktor Kontrol S8 is a really great professional digital DJ controller, and it's mainly suited for those DJs who are using beat synced and beat matched music and genres that are high in BPM and usually EDM style music. This is a perfect instrument that they can use in order to really captivate their crowds and do some cool things that wasn't always possible before on other DJ equipment, especially in the Traktor range. You have this really great build quality with the metal top panel. Everything just really feels solid and has a really good weight to it, and it really feels like it's built to last. You also have the true 4-channel standalone capability right here with this mixer. That means you can add all types of decks that you want and that you need. You can also use them with Traktor or without Traktor. You can also use your external decks and your microphone inputs with the Traktor effects and the filters that is in the unit if you want to use it with the computer. But again, you don't have to use it with a computer. You can just use it as a standalone mixer with really good high quality audio as well. You also have these nice high resolution dual screens which give you lots of Traktor information right there, your BPM, your waveform, lots of information that will allow you to take your eyes off of the laptop or the computer screen and bring it right here down to the hardware so you really look like you're focused on what you're doing on the task at hand. It also has the absolute best remix decks implementation that I've ever seen. It was really fun to use this here. Because you have these screens, you can really go through and scroll through all of your different remix decks categories, and you can see at a glance what you have on, what you have off, and then you can send your effects. It's just a real good way to implement the remix deck philosophy, and it's really cool to use here on the Traktor Kontrol S8. It's definitely the most fun that I've ever had with the remix decks in the past was done right here on this S8. And also they brought over the freeze mode, or the slicer mode as Serato people would know it as. And it's a really cool feature. They brought this over from Traktor DJ. We like it very much, and it's really fun to use, really intuitive. On the downside, this type of device must use external decks if you're a manual beat matcher like me, or if you're DJing this style of music such as hip hop, R&B, funk, and maybe even reggae, maybe even some other Hispanic style music where every BPM is not exactly the same. So you are going to want to use external decks with this. So that is one of my gripes with the unit. It doesn't have any jog wheels or pitch sliders, so you can't really manually beat match with the Traktor Kontrol S8 without the use of external decks. Also, you still have to use your laptop screen for searching for tracks and for other information that you may not see right here on this screen. So there's only a few different things that it shows you when you're searching through your different tracks, and you really can't change the different categories that are present on the screen. So you're really kind of stuck with what you have here on the screen, and some things are left out, you know, just because of the real estate of the screen, and sometimes you will have to go back to your laptop in order to find different tracks, especially when you want to type in a certain track for those mobile DJs or people who have a huge library like me.
You might want to go and type in sometimes to find your different releases or your different songs. And you can't really type in anything here, so you'll be scrolling for a very long time when you're browsing through all of your songs. Other than that, this is an excellent DJ controller. It's an excellent tool that can be used as the hub or the major center of any one DJ setup, especially if they're using external decks. Then you can get the best of both worlds. You have the most complete tune with Traktor, the most complete control of Traktor with the Traktor Kontrol S8. So for more on the written review, you can head on over to the website by clicking on the link in the top of this video description, www.djboot.net/DJS. Make sure you hit those thumbs up, make sure you subscribe, and thanks for watching.
Go! Wishes don't exist, my list consists of a mission. Impossible obstacles I get through in a matter of minutes. I'm time cruising and I'm handling business. Cunningham with my hand in my pocket, juggling, doubling profit, legally dipping and dodging, going to the pen. Life behind bars, ain't no point to keep it in. Life behind thoughts that hide the soul from the skin. I had to break out of that, was my only way out the den. Get, that's what I did, but even that dip cost me some chips. Even this time cost me a flick. Even this time cost me a flip. A couple of coins don't make that back. What can I change if I can't make sense? Can I ask again? Let me ask again. What can I change if I can't make sense to them? All they wanna know is